Hello, my name's David Edgar and welcome to the debut edition of Heart and Hand Extra. Yes, after all these years I've finally given in to audience demand and production company pressure to bring you a second show every week. Well, most weeks, I'll be honest there, most weeks. We're now going to give you a show on a Friday as well. It's not going to change anything to do with what will now be known as the flagship show, which will still be the usual collection that you have grown to mildly like. What we're going to do though with this show is on a Friday we'll probably go into more detail over the weekend's fixture, anything that's happened since the recording of the previous pod, but we also want to use it for features and to do things that we can't normally do on the flagship show. So with that in mind, I thought I wanted to do something special to kick us off, and I decided to speak to one of my favourite Rangers players this century, and I bet he's one of your favourite Rangers players too. Yes, it's the fantastic Kevin Thomson. Kevin was absolutely superb for us, and it turns out that he's just as interesting an interviewee as he was a dynamic midfield player. I loved recording this. I think you're going to love listening to it. So without further ado, let's go over now to Kevin Thomson. Joining me now, and I be honest with you all, I'm kind of like an excited wee schoolboy here. On the phone is a man who needs no introduction, but will be getting one anyway. One of the stars of the 3 in a row team joined us from Hibs in 2007. I believe it was Walter's second signing. It's Kevin Thomson. Kevin, thanks for joining us.
A pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Kevin, first of all, a lot of people I think already know this through the media and especially through Rangers TV where you've commented a couple of times, but tell everybody what you're up to these days.
Well, I've obviously retired, which comes as a wee bit of a shock to some people, probably more so myself. I knew this day was going to come, but to only be 32, I think it was not so much rushed, because I never do anything rushed. I'm always calculated, I always think. So sadly, my body, let me down a wee bit. Although I had a great career, and as I say, this bid was coming one day. I had plans in place. I'd already thought about what I wanted to do when I retired. So it was a wee bit an unknown trying the academy, but thankfully I started it, and so far so good. It's been well received, and I really, really enjoyed doing it.
Do you get a buzz at working with the youngsters then?
I do, and to be honest, if you asked me when I was 27, 28, if I could work with kids, especially having 2 of my own and knowing how hard they are to look after, they run me riot, to say the least. I would have told you no chance. It wouldn't have been something that I would have had a passion about. To be honest, I always thought that when I was thinking of coaching when I retired, I would have to work with professionals and older players, or else I just wouldn't have the patience to do it. But I'm absolutely delighted that things changed when I did become a dad, and as my boys have become young, keen football players as well, albeit they're only 5 and 7, but they both love a ball at their feet, and I think it was a big onus on doing something that I've done, and I have got a strong opinion on why we are where we are as a nation, and young players, and right through grassroots, right through to pro academies to the elite level, and I thought I would give it a wee bash at trying to give something back and doing something slightly different to the normal player that normally retires and potentially disappears or goes straight into management, or maybe tries their hand at something else. It was something that I was really passionate about doing, and something I'm delighted that I did do.
Well, I was going to come to that later actually, but it's a good entry point for it. One of the things about I think that's become clear about Scottish football in the last few years is we produce sort of promising youngsters, but they seem to get to a spot maybe kind of 22, 23, and they don't kick on the way they're accepted. And I would think, maybe a good example for Rangers fans would be Chris Buck, who, when he came through, we thought was going to be a really fantastic player. And he went on to have a good, solid career. And there's a lot of players who do that, maybe down south in the Championship or whatever. But why are we not getting them through to that next level, do you think?
I think it comes down to the way we are as like society, the way we live our lives, the way we. Looking, Bucky was a great player. I was lucky enough to play alongside him, albeit he was probably better when I played against him. He was kind of the danger man. When I was in Tony Mowbray's team, he was always the one that he earmarked when we played that Rangers team.
Was he?
Chris Buck was the one that he thought was the danger man that would cause us really like a lot of problems, and he did, to be fair. And when I first joined, I still remember being involved in Europe a wee bit and in training, etc. When you start to have a look at the players that are now your new teammates, Burkie was one of the ones that really stood out. I just think for whatever reason, with Walter, he never really played wingers, and when we did have successful teams, we were hard to beat. And Burkie being a natural wide player, and not really being able to potentially play up front or play maybe more central or whatever, he was a kind of out and out winger. And I just think Walter and that era never really suited Burkie, albeit he's a wonderful player, and he did go on and have a really good career.
Yeah.
Added to the fact that he was a great lad as well. But I do think, like when you mention Burke and you think about boys like John Fleck, kind of another prime example. Talented boy, probably as good a 15, 16-year-old as I've ever seen when I joined the club. And same again, he's went down the road and he's had a good career and he's still playing at a good level. But to break through at Rangers and potentially make his debut, I think when he was maybe only 16, 17, you're thinking he could be a star of the future. Breaking into a team, albeit it was a really, really strong squad. So I just think that we lack a wee bit desire as individuals, a wee bit desire as coaches as a whole, wanting the best for people and really having a real strong passion to try and be the best that we can possibly be. I think there's something that lacks in our mentality as Scottish people in general, I think. And I just want to try and push the kids and give them a real realisation of how hard you really, really have to work to get to the top. I'd like to think I got no far off the top, I'd like to think a good career, but I think if it wasn't through, and I don't want the violins out, I'm happy with my career, I'm happy that I gave it my all, but I think if it wasn't due to injuries, I potentially could have prolonged that and potentially got a wee bit higher up the ladder. But I just want to try and give kids from grassroots level right down to my kind of 5 to 8 year old class the quick realisation that you don't get much in life unless you really, really work hard. And I mean that funny burning feeling you get in your tummy that you've worked hard, and I think that's something that we lack in players.
I noticed at the end of last season, John Rankin at Dundee United had said something to that effect, that he feels that there's maybe not the desire from younger players that there was in his day to really push through. Is that something that you noticed changing throughout your career?
I just think that I have seen that lots of people have different opinions on this, and I'm not one of these ex-players and kind of old guys that look down and frown upon young players and think they're spoiled and they've got this and they're driving nice cars at 17. And look, I'm all for kids having as much as they possibly can get, and having wonderful training facilities, because it should only help. But I do think that having wonderful training facilities, bearing in mind Hearts have got a great academy now, Hibs have got a great academy, Celtic and Rangers are second to none. I know Aberdeen are trying to get plans in to get an academy. We've just built a £30-40 million SFA development at the Oriam. I don't think it's lack of facilities that the kids are getting. I just think there's a mentality and a wee lack of drive within too many. I don't know what it is. I don't know. That's why I'm doing it, because I want to try and pinpoint what the problem is and see if I can help to try and push kids on. But when I did work in the Hibs Academy, and this is nothing against any of the players that I worked with, because they were a breath of fresh air, I really, really enjoyed working with them, but I still thought there was something missing. I do think that the work ethic and the determination, the single-minded mentality to try and be the best they can be, I think there's too many that lack that.
One of the things I wanted to talk to you about is when you were at Hibs, you came through in a team that was kind of packed with young talent, and for about maybe 2 years, there seemed to be a story in the paper every day linking, one or more of you with a move to a big club. What's that like going through that at that age? It's okay saying, we hear players say to us, it doesn't affect me, I just go out and play, but you must be aware of that. It must have an impact on you picking up the papers in the dressing room and seeing yourself or other teammates being linked with these big glamorous moves.
Yeah, of course it does. It's I think when you're a player, like any player, everybody wants to be loved. Everybody wants to pick up the paper and see positive stuff. I know firsthand that positive stuff, there's always negative around the corner, and you have to try and grow a mindset and a mentality that can cope when the negatives do come. Any young player normally, when they break in the team, whether it be Hibs, Rangers, Celtic, Hearts, whoever, you normally pick up a lot of plaudits for being the young boy, the new kid on the block. The fans get excited to see you, to see how you're going to progress. And everything for a young player, first season syndrome, I normally call it, is you just run on the crest of a wave. And I think some players that can go to their heads.
Definitely seen that. Yeah,
I think for us, luckily for us, that group that come through, I'd like to think we were talented, but we were grounded in the respect that when we got in the first team, I don't know about Gaz and Deeks' situation, but I certainly know about me and Scotty, because we were that tight that we were on a bag of chips and a bottle of pop a week. We had no money. We had Scotty used to drive a Punto. We had to go into Easter Road and get changed. You would then have to get in a car or a minibus to drive to training, and you train on a public pitch that genuinely could be Bobbly City, it could be a real poor surface. How we managed to become good footy players, probably everything was stacked against us, but I think it gave us a good grounding. And you would get back in your car soaking wet, covered in mud, and have to drive back to Easter Road up for lunch, and look, never a complaint. It was a great place to be. But nowadays, obviously, when you can get in the first team, kids are signing 5-year contracts within getting on the bench a couple of times and getting more money and easier opportunities to come along. And I think there's too many. For 16 to 18, they take 2 years as a honeymoon period, and then it becomes too late and they've missed their chance. And I think the same when you're potentially 17, 18, and you do break into a first team and they sign these 3 or 4 or 5 year contracts on probably good money for their age. They get caught up in too much fairy tale stuff and too many fantasies, and they forget the basics, working hard and trying to keep on being the best you can possibly be. And I think if there was more that done that, I think we would create more success through our young talent.
Just as an aside to that then, for Rangers fans, there were 2 young players in particular when we went into admin and then into Division 3 who chose to leave, which was their right, but that was Jamie Ness and Rhys McCabe, who the fans had really, really high hopes for, but they get moved to Stoke and Sheffield Wednesday. Good contracts and whatnot, but you look at where they are now. Do you think maybe they'd have been better, even though it was the third division, playing maybe 100, 150 games? Because they're still only 23, 24 now, but their career seems to have hit a really low point.
Yeah, I did have an opinion when that happened, and I still do now. And look, Jamie was a young boy when I was there, and so was Rhys. Rhys was a wee bit younger. I think Rhys was maybe a year below Jamie, or Jamie trained with us quite a few times. He was part of like Andrew Shinney, boys like that used to sometimes come along and train with us. Me and Durant would bring them over, so I kind of knew Jamie without Jamie breaking in the team when I was there. He played more when I obviously moved on. But it's a difficult thing. It's the same with Billy Gilmore. People are going to have an opinion on where he's best to stay, and Billy's, look, I don't know what kind of contract he's got, and I don't know what kind of contract Jamie or Rhys got either, but it's really difficult to turn that down when you're a young boy. I do think that Rhys and Jamie, the situation that the club were in, the situation a lot of the young Rangers players were in, Ross Perry's, boys like that, probably given an opportunity to play at such a wonderful club and such a huge club, third division or no third division, the magnitude that comes along with being a Rangers player in any era of the club is huge, and it builds these young players' profiles up so big, and potentially they've ended up with finances which were probably far greater than they ever would have got if they had just stayed as youth team players at Rangers and potentially never got in the squad. So it's a difficult one, and that's not knocking their ability, but I just think it's one of the ones that when situations arise, I think like the biggest one for me is the boy that McLeod.
Yes.
Who obviously broke in the first team, probably established himself more than any other.
Yeah, definitely.
Become a fan's favourite very, very quickly. Looked a real talent. And I think for a Scottish football fan, for someone that's had a great time and loved my time, proud to play for the club, to see a young talented player that's producing the goods week in, week out at first team level, to then sign for an English team for £1 million, just tells you how poor we are at looking after our talent. Because if that was a young player down in England playing at a big club, bearing in mind the top 6 clubs down in England are the only ones that could even contemplate competing with Rangers, to sign our young talent for £1 million and then it may get lost in the system breaks my heart. And in my opinion, young talent that's breaking through at Rangers, and been given a platform to play on such a massive club should be going for millions and millions. A bit like Barry Mackay, to go for 500 grand, in my opinion, is the English taking the mickey out of us.
Oh, that was I understand if there was a point where there was a contract issue, that's fair enough, but I think he was very much undersold at that money.
I just look at it as strictly as a Scottish fan, as someone that's proud of our game. I look at it and think that Nottingham Forest, albeit they're a big club, but I played against Forest when I was down there. I know they went through difficult times, and I know the club they were back in the day when they had obviously the European Cup times and etc. But they're obviously a big club. But for them to sign two of our young Scottish talented players, and Barry Mackay and Jason Cummins for, if it's reported correctly, $1.5 million.
$1.5 million, I know, unbelievable.
And I'm not saying that these boys are top class players and they deserve to go for bigger money, but what I'm saying is in the context of it, I just think our young talent gets overlooked up here, and I think it's underappreciated. And Jason Cummins and Barry Mackay could potentially go and play in that team next year. I hope they both do, and I hope they both do really well. They seem good lads, although I don't know Barry, but I've got a great relationship with Jason, and he's a wonderful lad, and I wish him all the best. But they could potentially rip the Championship up next year, and Forest are rubbing their hands, spending £1.5 million on two players that are going to play in their team every week. Yeah. Championship players that go for Championship teams that sometimes could be squad players go for £1.5 million.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, $1.5 million to them is a punt. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, exactly. That's fair enough.
Whereas, I know that's getting off the point a wee bit, but regarding the two that you did mention, I just think that it's difficult because these teams can't pay more money in the stage of their development in respect that they wouldn't deserve to earn the kind of money that they'd be earning at Stoke and Sheffield Wednesday respectively as they would be at the stage of their career at Rangers playing in the third division. So it's just human nature. Your head can be turned. I don't want to sound as though I've got an opinion on that they've went to the money, because I didn't mean that. I've done the same myself. You move when you think it's right for you, different circumstances, but I do think that our young talent gets undervalued up here, and the English just come and steal who they want off us for, like you say, a punt basically, and if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't, and effectively these boys get lost in the system.
Now, I want to talk about you because that's why you're here. As I say, long-term listeners will know that I was an unapologetic Kevin Thomson fanboy. So we're going to... Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I'm quite honest about that. And one thing I wanted to talk to you about is that when you were at Hibs, you played a slightly kind of different role. It was a different team. Tony Mowbray, very, very attack-minded coach. And that Hibs team could play some fantastic attacking football. Obviously, there would be the other side of it sometimes where, it wouldn't go so well defensively. But when you came to Rangers, you were given a very specific role to do, which was you were much more of an enforcer, whereas at Hibs you'd be more of a playmaker. Was that spelled out to you during the negotiations? Was that something that was mentioned to you, or did it evolve at Rangers?
It just evolved. I was just trying to think of the word in my head that why I changed. My game changed a bit dramatically when I first hurt my knee at Hibs. I think you could ask Hibs fans that have an honest opinion of watching me through my career and seeing how I progressed to like you say, being potentially a playmaker and someone that could get up on the edge of the box and play clever passes, and to all of a sudden playing slightly deeper and playing behind the ball. I think from day one I was always a football player in my mind, as in like I read the game really well, I knew where to be, and obviously when I played with Scott Browns, Michael Stewart's, Guillaume Bouzlin's at Hibs, I probably had the young leg capacity to be able to get up to around the box to then get back, and you run about a wee bit like a headless chicken, to say the least. Although Tony did try his very best to coach me, and I think I did progress through Bobby to Tony to then obviously moving to Rangers to work under Walter, and I then moved to a squad that had players like Barry Ferguson, who it was natural for Barry to get up onto the edge of the box. At times when I played with Barry, he liked to get past the strikers. All the Rangers fans will know how wonderful a football player he is. He probably was at his best when he was, in my opinion, breaking into the box and getting on the end of things and showing everybody how good a player he was to go and score a goal and make the difference. Like any player, when Barry got that wee bit older, you would find him coming back the pitch that wee bit further. I just think the niche in the market for me, which I quickly found was being the ball winner, being someone that could win the ball back, being really aggressive for the team. And I think it complemented every other player in the Rangers team that we had, midfielder-wise, as in Barry, when Steve obviously signed, when Pedro Mendes played, Brahim Hindani, great football player. I know he never played much in Scotland, but the European run, he was
crucial.
He was a masterclass. But I would like to think that I complemented Brahim where he could bring a wee bit of composure and a wee bit of calmness. I'd like to think I could bring that as well. But the dirty bit, the bit that really hurts, was the bit that come really natural to me, and it probably never to Brahim.
No, I think that's fair. He was neat.
And probably the same as Barry.
I think that's fair. Brahim Himdani was neat and tidy, and he was good in Europe, but I felt sometimes he could get lost in a domestic game.
It was a bit hustle and bustle for him in Scotland. It was a bit frantic. Brahim hated training against me. If ever I was in the opposite team for Brahim Himdani, he gave me that look like, because I'd be after him every day. There wasn't many people that liked training against me, but Brahim, look, he served. I'm saying purpose. That sounds disrespectful. He was a great lad, and he was, like I say, he was a masterclass through Europe. But it never suited him in Scotland. Trying to get back to, for me, it just felt natural that the way the team evolved around Walter, and we become really hardy. The first season was all about work ethic and desire and commitment, and probably a wee bit more robust, probably a wee bit less pleasing on the eye.
Plus you were playing a game every 15 minutes that season.
Aye, it never helped that the SFA had us playing 20 games a week when we were trying to go for the quadruple. But
what was the thoughts in that, just in the dressing room? Because I know you couldn't say much at the time, but that must have been horrendous. I mean, you get to a European final and get no help at all from the governing body. I mean, it was sickening to the fans.
It was, and look, I've always been a player that's appreciated fans, and and how much money fans pay. I still got lots of pals that are Rangers fans, and they tell me that going down to Sheffield Wednesday just there, and the money they have to pay to commitment of following the club through thick and thin, and like any fan, an honest fan wants their team to win fairly and wants them to have the best opportunity to follow their team, to see them put on the best performance they can put on. If anyone could think back to what we had to try and produce within a squad, within a group of players, the magnitude of the games, the travelling that we had to endure, albeit I'll do it again tomorrow, but to have no help, a fixture rearrangement when we were potentially pushing on to try and get our hands on being one of the most successful teams in the club's history, which, without sounding disrespectful to any club, we're not talking about a club that's no glittered in history.
Exactly.
We're talking about one of the best clubs in the world. So to be part of a team that could have potentially been written in the history books forever, to not have any help of anyone was of course it was disappointing, and it probably is more disappointing now when I look back at my career that we did have to endure such a hectic schedule, such a demanding schedule, and really have no help for anyone else.
I just think it's bizarre that countries like France, Spain, Germany will move games for their clubs in a European final, and as you say, these are countries that will have finalists more often than we will, and we couldn't do it. I found that bizarre, to say the least.
Yeah, it's disappointing, but it's one thing I've always been is I've never wanted an excuse, and I've never played on excuses, whether it was injuries or whether it was the schedule. Like I say, I would do it again yesterday, but I think even an honest football fan and someone that hopefully, like me now, wants the best for our game and wants the best for Scottish footy and wants to see our teams do really well, especially in Europe. I think that when you look back at that whole period of the club's history, it was poor to say the least.
Absolutely. Now, you touched on him there, and I'm going to have to ask you a bit about the man himself. I've had limited experience with Walter Smith. I used to be the spokesman for the Rangers Supporters Trust. I had a few meetings with him back then, and I'd been to a couple of sort of formal events, and in particular one dinner when he was presenting me an award with the Scottish Football Writers. And I have to say, Kevin, Walter Smith might be the most fucking terrifying man I have ever been in a room. He did a speech at that, and he just had a way of looking at you where you just wanted to...
I've had that look many times.
What's it like working for him? Because Honestly, I'm sitting in a meeting, and you're a wee bit overawed anyway because it's Walter Smith, and he gave me a look, but then I thought, I'm just a fat. But he did it at that Football Writers player. I always remember to Craig Levine, and Craig Levine hid. I thought, Jesus, I wouldn't step out of line with this guy.
He's as good as it gets. He's now that I've retired and you try to learn some traits, and look, you have to be really natural. You have to be yourself. If you try to be someone else when you become a coach, you become a manager, it just doesn't work. And look, you have to build up a reputation. You have to have different characteristics to earn respect off of people. You have to treat people with respect to try and get it back. And I don't know what Walter had, because I want to have it myself one day. I might never, but it'll not be through lack of trying. He just had an aura that I say it still to this day. I was only saying it just last week to someone that you could be in different clubs, different changing rooms, and you could be having a natter with one of the lads, and you could be talking away. You could be on your phone. Some clubs ban phones, some clubs don't. Walter was very relaxed with stuff like that. He treated us like men. And if he walked in the changing room, there would be silence. Like, I'm talking deafening silence.
Oh, I can imagine. I can imagine.
He just had that thing. It was the same. We could all be on the bikes, 25 hours warming up in the morning, like we did every morning before we went out to train. And he could walk in, and he just had something about him. And he used to make me laugh, because he used to look as though he just rolled out of his bed in the morning at times. he used to wear flip flops with his socks already on, as in footy socks. He'd have his training bottoms on, sometimes his shorts, depending on the weather, and he would have one of the rugby tops, like the old fashioned collared rugby tops.
Yes,
like
yes.
A rugby jersey, but with a big white collar, and obviously the collar wouldn't be folded nice and neat, and it wouldn't be buttoned up, and he would just walk in, like, not scruffy as such. He still looked cool, but he did look scruffy, if you know what I mean.
No.
And he would walk in, and at times I used to always think he looked as though he just rolled out of his bed, but one wee look and one wee walk around the gym, walk around the bikes, and if there was any playing up, and if there was anyone that wasn't doing it, which we never had that issue, because we had such a great squad, demanding off each other. People wouldn't accept boys not doing it, but he just brought that presence with him. And as for a manager, as for someone that I respect, to the day that I die, I think we'll be hard pressed to ever see someone as good as Walter.
We still miss him. He's kind of like, see, for Rangers supporters, Kevin, he's like our dad. You just.
That's what he's like, and he can be so aggressive with you, in the respect that I had hairdryers off him, and but I used to get a bit banter off the lads, and I used to get a wee bit banter off of Coisty and Kenny McDowell, that I was his boy, and if we ever won the league or whatever, and we were having a beer back at Ibrox, if we had obviously a function on or whatever, and he would come and have a chat around the boys and that, and he used to always say, "Man, I get some stick off them for them saying I'm your dad," and that. I just had a great relationship with him, and I think he just, hopefully, he respected me as a person and as a player. And when I went in to meet Pedro, when I come down to see Jimmy, because I'd never leave without obviously popping in to see Jimmy, and Walter actually brought his grandkids into the Rangers community football, and it's the first time I've seen him since I left Middlesbrough, and big cuddle, and I could have spoke to him for hours. I actually did. I spoke to him for about 45 minutes. Just never awkward, never, do you know what I mean? Just asking me about coaching and telling me about some things that he think I should do, and I was asking him a wee bit of advice, and I said to him like how my interview went with Pedro, and he said brilliant, and I said to some of the stuff that I'd said to him, some of the questions that he asked me, and what his thoughts were and what his thoughts were on the team. Albeit we were in the summer, weren't we? So the team had potentially finished like a wee bit disappointing end to the season. And I was kind of asking him his thoughts, like what would he do in that? Because these are all things that hopefully one day I'll get an opportunity to do, whether it's at Rangers or whether it's at Cowdenbeath or whether it's at an amateur team. I just, I want an opportunity as well one day to get to the top, and I'm going to try my damnedest to get there. So every wee snippet of information that managers have gave me, I log it in. I think I'll ask questions that, in my opinion, could hopefully help me one day, and that's what I've done with Walter. And just the way he is with people is just, he's different class. He's a class act.
One of the things I wanted to ask you about was the atmosphere at football. I mean, specifically Ibrox, but just in general. Fans have got this romantic notion about, the 12th man and all the rest of it. But how much of a difference does it make to a player, the atmosphere? Because, you can play at Ibrox and there's 50,000, but it might not be as loud as maybe an away game where there's 10,000.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, the away fans, for me, at every club I've been at, have always been the best. Always. And look, there's no better atmosphere than a big game at Ibrox, and scoring early, and getting the fans on side, and a nice summer's day, and the ball getting popped around, nice slick pitch, and everybody up for the fight, the fans excited, everybody going home happy, standing in the shower at 4:45, and 3 points in the bag, go home, forget about it, move on to the next. There is no better feeling. But I have to say, when I was a Rangers player, for considering we played all over the world at different venues through European football, Champions League, etc. Even pre-season, the away fans for however I don't know how they managed to do it, and I think that's for a lot of clubs. I was a wee bit the same when I was even at Middlesbrough, and the Riverside you could hear a pin drop at times, but. Hibs as well, the same. Do you know what I mean? Even Dundee, just for whatever reason, I don't know if that's just the way it is for clubs, but I think when you go as an opposition player, especially a Rangers player, when you go to an opposition ground and you have your home fans with you, albeit they're away fans for the day, but when you have them with you for whatever reason, it just gives you a spring in your step. See when you're warming up, and see when you're trying to get focused and try and get yourself, because everybody needs it. Everybody can say, "Oh, I get myself psyched up for a game," but that wee bit of encouragement, that wee clap to the fans, that wee song just before, like that last 5 minutes when you're warming up and the atmosphere's starting to bubble. That's the bit that gives you goosebumps, and that's the bit that eggs you on as a player to give you that extra bit. And I think the away fans, especially when I was at Rangers, was they were second to none.
Well, that's the other side of the coin then. When you're playing at Ibrox, and let's be honest here, as a crowd, we are pretty quick, I think, at times to get on players. I mean, it's the old, I think it was Walter that said it, you need to be winning at half-time and full-time or you'll get booed. What's that like for the players, when you're maybe not playing well, and I'm sure you guys know something's not clicking today or whatever, and you hear it from the stands. I mean, do you have to block it out, or
you do? The biggest thing I would say for me and for any Rangers player, and look, I'm not giving any Rangers player advice. They can take my comments with a pinch of salt. But I think the biggest player for any player to be successful at the club is to quickly put that out of your mind, to quickly grow a mentality that you can cope with the groans and the moans. And look, we've all had it. The best players that are far, far better than me that play for the club. Everybody gets it, but you get that at every ground. Home fans they want to see you win. They want to see you play well every single week. At a club like Rangers, there's never a week that you can get away with playing 20 good games in a row and then all of a sudden you play one poor one, because they'll tell you. It's just the way it is. And you have to accept that. And I think if you do accept it and you build a mentality that you can cope with that, and sadly a lot of players don't. And I think that's the downfall for too many players that fail at Rangers, because I think when you get to Rangers, you've got a level of talent, you've got a level of ability that allows you to get to such a great club like Rangers. And I think a lot of people fail due to their personal mentality. And I probably think that my mentality changed through Walter, and I was lucky. Maybe if I joined Rangers in a different era, that's one thing I changed as a person, as a player, and my mentality become like a monster when I was at Rangers. I was so focused, it was unbelievable, whereas things probably come that wee bit easy for me at Hibs. Only up and probably till the last 5 or 6 weeks under John Collins and moving to Rangers that I kind of endured any stick. I'm not saying that I didn't have people that disliked my performances or maybe had a wee groan at me, but the majority I would have thought that they would like me. I was club captain at the time. I was probably one of the fans' favourites, and everything just fell into place quite easily. Whereas at Rangers, for the first 6 months, I had to endure people not being that sure about me signing, and not too sure about him. He's all right. You know what I mean? And when you do give the ball away at Ibrox, like you say, they can be quick to get on your back. But my mentality changed through Walter. He told me that loads of wee tips and loads of things that I had to try and change as a person. And I think it helped me for the good. And I think if you do that quickly at a club like Rangers, then you succeeded.
Well, my record at Ibrox for hearing that kind of thing came after 40 seconds in a game, where there was a misplaced pass and the guy behind me shouted, "Fuck's sake, Edu!" And I went, that's Beasley, mate. That's no Edu. He went, "Well, he's still fucking pish." So I was like, right, well, okay, poor guy. He's not even gave the ball away yet, but he's getting it. So no, we're not the easiest crowd to play for. I think that there's definitely something to that. See, when you're playing for Rangers, this is something we as fans feel, but I don't know whether you've been on both sides of this. Do other teams raise their game when they're playing Rangers and Celtic? But from our point of view, Rangers, is that something that you notice? Because we always think our players, when they come here, even if they've done well in the SPFL, they have to understand that they're not going to have a game, that's not more intense every week.
Aye, bang on. That's one thing I say to Scotty when I left to go to Middlesbrough, and I come back up the road or whatever, and I was at Dundee, and obviously, like, even under Ronnie and that, when they were getting stick to the team, and obviously when I was at Rangers and Scotty was at Celtic, the one thing you do notice, the massive change, is that when Rangers and Celtic come to town, whether it's through to Edinburgh to play the capital teams, or whether you're going to Motherwell or up to Aberdeen, when the big teams are in town, you're up against it, and every team raises the level. It's a fact. And that's what is difficult with being a Rangers player, because you play against a level of player that plays a cup final against you every week. And when you're at Hibs and you're at different teams out with Old Firm, I've seen it myself drastically when I was up at Dundee. If we maybe went and played Partick Thistle or Motherwell come to Dens, the game could be like a reserve game. As soon as Rangers go up to Dens or Celtic go to Dens or vice versa, it's all of a sudden these teams, I don't know where they get it from. And I just think that's the mentality of the player, and that's why they play at these type of clubs, because they can raise their game to play against Rangers and Celtic for the big games and produce a performance that would worthy of being a good player. Week in, week out, bread and butter for them, they can fall under standards. And I think that's one thing as a Rangers player or a Celtic player, any Old Firm player, is you have to produce the goods week in, week out.
Yep.
You have to be focused, and you have to know that training Monday to Friday means everything, because you're sloppy during the week, you're sloppy at the weekend. That's the way I trained, and you have to do that consistently over a period of time, whether you're at the club for a year, whether you're at the club for 5 years. You have to try and find that consistency, and I think fans warm to you when you're a player that produces the goods most weeks. I think every player, whether you're the best player in the world or whether you're a Rangers player or whoever, I think you get a wee bit of leniency when you roll up your sleeves, pull your socks up, and you get stuck in, week out. It's impossible to be the best player on the pitch every single week. But when you have the sloppy games and the sulky ones, and you start throwing your arms up in the air, and you stop doing the wee dirty runs that fans expect of every player, that's when you find yourself in a bit of bother.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there with Rangers fans in particular, that we maybe more than a lot of other supports, we love the skillful players and the passing football and all that, but the thing that the reason that team that you were in is so loved by the Rangers support is that you had balls. And we knew that you guys would go out, and even if you weren't playing well, we knew you would fight. We knew you guys wouldn't let us down in a scrap. And certainly, obviously the last few years have been difficult, but even before that, the Le Guen team and whatnot, we know when that's lacking, and we can forgive guys maybe not having the best ability in the world, but we can't accept when a Rangers team isn't full of guys that want to go out and have a scrap. And your team had that.
That's one thing I would say that our team was so successful. I think I was probably the youngest player in the team. When I think of like our team, whether it was Whittaker or Hutton, and whether it was Queller or Bugera, Davy Weir, Papac, Marcel, Baz, Brahim, Mendes, Steve. I think me and Steve were similar ages, obviously so were me and Huts, but I was younger than them. Nazy was younger. He would have been the youngest, but he never played consistently when I was there, Nazy. He always kind of got in and got an opportunity, and then he fell out. And then you had obviously boys like Dasheville, Cousins, Baz, boys like that. So I was kind of the not so much the baby in the team, but one of the younger. And we just had a mentality and I don't know, the desire, commitment, drive within the group that when you did go to difficult venues and it was scrappy and it was a horrible game, and you just didn't wait to get in the shower. And you just knew what to expect. Bobbly pitch, going to like a St Mirren or whatever at the old stadium, and this pitch is great now, but it never used to be. or going to Motherwell and it just been a scrap, and playing against a Terry Butcher team and the ball would just be fought for every second. But that was one good thing we had, that if the ball was on the deck and it was a game of footy, we had the quality to beat teams. Yet when they wanted to try and mix it up with us, there was no way in hell that any team was bullying us. And that was one good thing, because when you start to play against the best players, when you get into Europe, you have to try and make it a fight because they're better than you. So that's what teams try to do to you. In Scotland, they try and make it a fight, but when you can fight them and you can beat them, then they come unstuck, because if they try and play footy against you, you've already got the quality. That's why they're at the teams and you're at Rangers. You're a better player for a reason. But better players that don't have fight and don't have that mentality come up against a player with lesser ability, but he's got bigger fight and a bigger heart, then they can get the better of you.
Yeah, and I think that you've just summed up the quintessential thing that Rangers fans look for in a team, which is battle, because we think you'll be able to outplay these teams, but make sure if they want to make it a fight, that you win the fight first. And I think that the great Rangers teams, certainly in my lifetime, have all had that. Now, Kevin, obviously, right, I've been building up to this, but we've got to talk about it. Now, there are very few guys that I can think of who have an Old Firm winner, and it's still probably not their most famous Old Firm moment. And you have both of them. So we'll start with the more glamorous bit first. Winning goal in an Old Firm game. What?
Yeah, look, it's I don't know how to say it. It still gives me goosebumps when I think about it, and it's, look, I'm proud, and you probably aren't when you're playing, and these things just come and go, and they get forgot about. I know they don't get forgot about because it's there, but they do, and things move on, and obviously if you keep on being successful, then the success that you've had prior keeps on getting brought up. I'd like to think that's the case with me at Rangers. The following that I've got, and the way I'm received when I go back to Ibrox still to this day is unbelievable. It's touching. The social media following that I get off the Rangers fans is, it's second to none. It's different class. And like you say, scoring a win in an Old Firm, it genuinely is the only things that you could dream of when you're a young lad. Albeit I never scored many goals either. It wasn't like I was putting the ball in the net every other week, and goals were second nature to me. So to score an Old Firm winner, to score at Ibrox, to score in front of the Celtic.
Oh, yes, I was going to say it was at the Brumie. Yes.
I genuinely think it was just meant to be, and I do think at times that's sometimes what happens. Is things are meant to be, and I think I was the best player on the pitch that day. I felt like I bluffed the game, and that's one thing. I didn't say it as a big-headed thing. I've blown smoke up my own backside because it's not the way I am. But the one thing I hope that I brought to the team in the big game for Rangers, and that game especially, was that I felt I could boss the game without the ball as well as with the ball. And physically, at 23, 24, whenever that was, I felt I was as good as anyone in the country. And what I brought to the team, I know Walter and hopefully others, appreciated it to more than anyone, really.
Well, I did, trust me, and I made sure everyone who listened to this did as well, so don't worry about that. But see the moment, though, that you see the ball, it goes in the net. I was there that day. Most of the listeners here, well, not, but they'll all have seen it, but a lot of them will have been in the ground that day. The noise when that went in was fucking mental. What was it like to know I've done this? This was me. I made this happen as Bedlam's going on.
As you can probably see from my celebration, it wasn't something that was pre-planned, and I kind of knew what I was doing. I genuinely never knew what I was doing. But it's funny, see the bit that gives me the most goosebumps thinking of the goal, and obviously I'd like to think it was a good goal.
It was a
pass to Barry.
Yep.
Walter, obviously the video goes to Walter, doesn't it? And you see him just peering down the. He's desperate to get in the change room. But the bit that gives me the biggest goosebumps, and it's probably the least significant bit, but hopefully the fans will relate to it, is the video goes to Alan McGregor at the end. Obviously the goal and the clip, and it shows Alan McGregor running towards the fans in the main stand, and kind of doing his big jump and run and kind of celebrating, and you see the crowd in the background, and it's just a hazy people.
Yeah, it's bedlam.
Jumping about, and it's bedlam, and it's probably, when I watch the video back, I would never cut it short until I get to that bit, because Griggsy was a good friend of mine, Great goalie, best goalie I've played with in my career.
He was outstanding.
And obviously, when you score and you celebrate with your teammates, the last thing you ever think about is a goalie.
Poor bugger.
And obviously, as daft as Griggsy he was, I think he was delighted, not just for the team and for the club, but probably delighted for me as well. So when you see someone celebrating your goal, your wee bit of brilliance, it's it's certainly great to look back at.
Now, the other moment, and I'm sure you know what I'm coming to on this one, there are actually a couple though, because I remember there was a time with Diamansi Camera where you huffed the ball right at him from about a yard. He had it coming. But the Celtic turn up at our pitch. They brought in this, let's say what he was, a ringer from down south on stupid wages, and he's tearing up the league, and he's going to win them the league, and they're there at our ground. And I don't think I've ever seen such a more perfectly executed "this is our pitch" arsehole than that tackle, which I guarantee, by the way, gets posted still once a week on Rangers social media. Because we want it put in the welcome pack. See, when guys arrive, they should this. We'll show you the goals later, right? But this is what we want. Was it something that you thought, I'm going to do? Or was it just opportunity and I'm going to show these guys, this is our pitch, this is our home?
Look, I didn't. Genuinely, I'm saying this for the bottom of my heart. I didn't just say stuff that I want the fans to think, oh, that's the way it should be. I never earmarked Robbie Keane. Anyone was getting it. It just so happened to be him. You actually see the way I went running towards. Kamara comes in the pitch. Lee McCulloch goes towards him. If Kamara had skipped by Lee, I was giving Kamara it, but someone was getting it. So, it just so happened to be and Robbie. And see what made me rage more, which was probably the worst thing for Robbie, is that when he pulled my jersey after I'd battered him, and he pulled me down towards him, and I pushed him away. It annoyed me because he said something to me. I can't mind what it was, but he never cashed me off as such. But he called me like a wee prick or something. And as I'm running back, I told him he's fucking getting it again. and the ball went obviously out, and it went to Scotty, and I actually went tearing out because somebody else was getting it as well. And it worked down the right hand side. I think Scotty clipped it down the right, and Kamara cut inside. The kind of thing was that you can tell I've watched this 100 times. he played it into the middle of the pitch. I think it gets cleared off the Gers, hits some big jig, and breaks. I think maybe to Scotty again, passes to the wee boy in the middle of the pitch. I can't remember the boy's name, and he passes it to Robbie again. And I swear I was a bull now. Again, and I was going for him this time, and he started talking to me through the game. And a hand on heart, and look, Robbie Keane's a wonderful player. He doesn't give two monkeys about Kevin Thomson. I understand that, but he was shiting himself that day. And every time I went near him, I told him, "You're fucking getting it." Because he started speaking to me through the game and telling me what he was telling me, it got my back up. And no normally many people get my back up, but some of the things that he said to me made me rage. And it was probably for him the worst thing he'd done. I genuinely think that
wrong guy to pick on.
Aye, and I genuinely think that Walter used to always say to me, obviously I've said this before, the punters, who's getting it in the first 10 minutes, and I used to just laugh and say, I don't know, somebody. And he always used to say to me whenever we had chats that if I clattered somebody and put my stamp and my presence on the game within 10 minutes, we would win the game. And I was a winner. Look, I started as a winner, I finished as a winner, I left the club as a winner. And one thing for me, which I'm proud of, probably prouder than anything that I achieved in my career, was that when the big team come to our patch, I never got beat off them once at Ibrox, and I left not getting beat off them at Ibrox, and I started not getting beat off them at Ibrox, and it just, to me as a player, it meant everything, because I knew how much it meant to the fans. Yep. And I always thought big games need big players, and I'd like to think I was one of them.
I don't think we're going to top that, to be honest. So I mean, I want to ask you before you go though. Manchester, obviously one of the things I still remember that day is your performance in midfield and the scrap that you guys had, because that was a right good team you were up against that day. I mean, they pumped Bayern Munich in the semi-finals. What was it like that day for the players? Because for the fans, it was just this incredible emotion, and the city being festooned. What's it like to play in a game of that magnitude?
It really is. It's unbelievable. I had one of my pro boys that I work with in my academy, and he's a bit heavy, wee Ben, and he's a great lad. I've had him for day one. He's up at St Johnstone, and I work with him, and I do a wee bit extra fitness in that with him. And I've had him in and showed him my games room and that, and albeit he doesn't particularly like the blue stuff as much as he likes the green. But I was showing him my medals. Just to try and give him something to aspire. Anyway, he wanted to see them. Look, I'm not one I'll come and see this and come and see that. It's not my style. But his dad's big into collecting his memorabilia and that as well. So I was showing him my UEFA Cup medal. And actually, when I put it away, I thought to myself, there's no many Scottish players that'll ever get one of them and ever have the opportunity to do what we've done in 08. And to be part of that, looking back, to think of the run, to get in the group of death. And we were all the same as players, probably the same as fans. We sat, whatever it was on the Monday morning or during the week, whenever the day, the night of the draw to the next game day in training, thinking, we might not get any points here. German champions, French champions, and then the kings of the kings in Barcelona. So to get through that group, I know we only got through it to get to enter the UEFA Cup, but to get 7 points. Out of 18 against the 8 teams, and I think the fans still looking back to go over to France and win.
Oh yeah.
To draw against, and I genuinely think you maybe could argue maybe now, but I think that Barcelona team back then in 08, I think probably the best Barcelona team ever.
Yeah, with players like Deco, Ronaldinho, you'd Messi
probably the best. And you could argue, would that team beat this and that? I didn't like to compare years, but you never know because they're never going to play against each other who was better. But what a team they had, and it was probably like the iconic Barcelona team when they were just becoming like superstar in every single position. Superstars on the bench, superstars in the stand, the way they played, their philosophy, their style. To draw against them at Ibrox was, I've never been so tired in all my life as a player. To then go on what we've done all over the world, competing in knockout stages, to then one day get to Manchester was unbelievable. And I hope, obviously next year will be the 10-year anniversary getting there, and I hope the club do something regarding the players that obviously were part of that squad. I know it's never the same when you don't win compared to obviously being a runner-up, but I still think it was an unbelievable period in the club's history, and to be part of it was amazing. The game itself was it's a blur, to be honest. But like you mentioned, they were a top team. And people still have their opinion today. Should we have went for it? Should we have changed? And look, you're talking to the master that hatched the plan to get us through that group all the way to Manchester. There was no way in hell that we were going to change. And I genuinely believe, I thought we were going to win. I thought we could win. And I think at half time when I trotted off the pitch to a blistering noise, the game plan was going swimmingly well, exactly the same as a lot of other games in Europe, in the respect that when we did get our chance, when the chance arose, we would have the quality to stick it in the back of the net, and then we would have the quality to defend. But we sadly we just come up trumps, and the wee bit lady luck that I'd like to think we did have through the campaign, we just fell a wee bit short in the final. And there's probably never been as big a disappointment as sitting on the pitch with tears in my eyes, looking at my mum and dad in the stadium, thinking that you had kind of let down so many thousands and thousands of people that travelled down to Manchester.
Well, I was in the stadium that night, and I can assure you that the fans didn't in any way feel let down, because growing up, I never thought that I would get to see a Rangers team in a European final in my lifetime. And I'm choking up actually talking about it just now. I genuinely never thought, and I was there that day with my dad, and to be able to, the two of us to be able to go and see that together, and that was replicated for literally hundreds of thousands of bears to get that day. So none of you guys ever need to feel you let us down, because you gave us the greatest day and the greatest run, and it's never ever going to be forgotten.
I think every player would be the same. To be part of it, it was a special time, and another wee bit of regret, wee bit of disappointment is to win a title, to win a cup double, to build a team that, we had some young Scottish talent. Talking about talent earlier, to think of that team that Walter had built, and he was always on the lookout for a striker. I know he brought in Jelavic after obviously I moved on, but if that team stayed together, myself included, and he did bring in Jelavic to strengthen us that summer, you can only think of what the team potentially would have went on and achieved, because we were the best, and there would have been a long way to go to try and catch us, and to be part of that, to look back on so many fond memories of the 3.5-4 years that I was at the club. I'm delighted and privileged and honoured to feel that I was part of the club's history.
Well, listen, Kevin, thank you so much for doing this. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It's been so great. Just before we go, then, tell the people where they can find out more about the Kevin Thomson Academy.
Well, as it stands, I've only really advertised through obviously social media. I've obviously got Twitter. How you managed to get in touch with us?
Totally.
And obviously I've got Facebook, Kevin Thomson Academy, and it's just really through email, Kevin Thomson Academy at gmail.com. If anyone wants to come through, I've actually got a couple of young Rangers lads that come through for 2-2, which is great. Travel all the way from Ayrshire. My dad loves bringing them through. The kids love it. I've actually took on their 2 wee brothers now as well, talented wee young players as well. And I just try my best for every kid, regardless of whether you're an elite player or whether you're in one of my talks classes. My wee 5 to 8 year olds, I get a buzz off it, and hopefully it just keeps on growing. The way it's been received, the boys like yourself, giving me a wee plug, and we are the People magazine, obviously give me a nice wee spread in that as well. I do a wee column for them, and obviously Tom through Rangers TV. The way the Rangers fans and the way people have received it has been different class, and if I can keep on building it, I did the same as I was as a player. I want to be the best. If I fall short, it'll certainly not be through lack of trying. I give every kid the same commitment as I was as a player for every club that I played for, and if I can help them in any way, then I think it's been a success.
So thanks very much to Kevin Thomson for doing that. I thought he was absolutely brilliant, and please give him a follow on Twitter. He's at K Thomson Academy. That's at K Thomson without a P Academy, and you can also go and like his page on Facebook, as he mentioned there. Just search for Kevin Thomson Academy and go along and do that and give him your support, because he's as you heard there, just a really intelligent, articulate guy, and I'd like to think us Bears can give him a wee helping hand at the start as he makes his way in coaching. In terms of the show then, a cracking way for us to kick Heart and Hand Extra off. Like I say, we'll be coming to you all throughout the season on a Friday, mainly with game previews and maybe a review of what's gone down the rest of the week that hasn't been covered on the previous show. But overall, they probably won't be as long as this, but we will try to do some different features throughout the season, maybe covering different subjects such as history, such as like fans, etc. And we'll chat to different people. So please give us your feedback. Let us know if you enjoyed this. Let us know if you like the idea. I'm on Twitter. It's at IbroxRocks. That's ROCKS. And you can also follow us on Facebook. Just again, when you search for Kevin's page, search for Heart and Hand, the Rangers podcast. If you want to continue to get H&H Extra, and I hope you do, if you are subscribed to us currently on any of the platforms that you use, then don't worry, it'll just download automatically. If you don't subscribe, it's maybe the first time you've come across us, then please do, and you'll get all our other content. And if you can, I'd be very grateful if you could leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. It helps us a great deal. It's a great way for you to support the show. Please do. Take you 2 minutes, and we would really, really appreciate it. So thank you very much for listening. My name's David Edgar, and I'll talk to you again next week. Bye.